Here we are in the middle of nowhere, California, in the Searles Valley. Now the town way in the background there is called Trona. Many people think Trona is a ghost town. It is not. Other people think it's an abandoned town. It is not. Is it a thriving town? It is not, at least not in the traditional sense. But the people of Trona have a spirit about them that's pretty unbelievable. I mean, it seems like the worst place in the world to live, and yet the people there are proud of their town. Now in the distance, you can see the Searles Valley Mining Company. It was a large operation many years ago. We're going to do a little flyover of the town, and while we're doing that, I'm just going to give you a little bit of history on the town. First, white folks came through here in about 1850. They saw way out on the lake there that there's a lot of mineral deposits, including borax, which was a desirable commodity at that time. And the first guy through here was borax himself, and he was searching for gold. And so he saw that there was borax here, but he kind of had gold on his mind, so he skipped over it. Later, this guy Searles came through in the later 1800s, 1880 or something. He staked a claim, and he claimed this lake bed here, and then he started mining the borax and some minerals out of there. And it wasn't until about 1916 that the railroad was put in this very large plant. And at that time, it was a huge operation. And at one point, there was something like 4,000 workers at the plant. So you can imagine the population here could have easily been 10 or 20,000 people. And now the mining company is still in operation. However, it's a greatly reduced staff. It's nothing like it used to be. As a result, there's many, many, many abandoned houses, and the place looks pretty rough. Generally speaking, the people there are proud of their town. They like it. They keep it clean. I've seen people walking around picking up litter, and they try to make it look good as it's going to be. So let's go explore and check it out and see what we find. All right, I'm now at the west end of town, southwest I guess it is, at the old Easy Serve behind me, which you can see is been abandoned for many years. I think it was a gas station to stop at, and this would be just as you get into town. And then over here is a shop, a workshop, car repair shop. It's a diesel repair, lube jobs, 8-cylinder tune-up, $39.95. So that was a while ago. So we flew over the West End plant, and you could see what the facility's like. You could also see out in the valley, there's a little bit of water out there where I think we've had maybe a little bit of rain recently. There's a whole bunch of different minerals they get from the lake. And you know, back in the old days, it was kind of like borax was kind of the thing. And then there's potash and soda ash, and Trona is the name of the town, is actually a mineral in its own right. So there's these various salt minerals extractable from the lake. I'm not really sure exactly what the plant is focusing on, whether they do several minerals or just one or two or whatever. But anyway, it's in operation, and we're going to roll into town now and check that out. Behind me there, you can see the Shell station, and you can see on the end of it, it says authentic Mexican food. There used to be a little Mexican kind of restaurant thing in there, and they would serve up really great burritos and stuff. And I used to stop when I would pass through here in the kind of the late 2000s. So this one hasn't been closed for that long, but it is closed. And then in the back you can see a lot of abandoned homes back there. Okay, so now we're at the east end of town, and over behind me that way is the what's called the Searles Valley Minerals Trona facility. I'm going to show you the sign right here. So this is on one side of the road, and then across the road is the facility, and you can see that one is definitely in operation. You can see the steam coming out. Right across the street where I am from the Trona plant right there, there's this sort of picnic area with bathrooms and whatnot, and this is kind of an example of how Trona can be at once a sort of decaying town, but also a place where people care about stuff. This area is nice and clean, and there's a bunch of information over here about the Searles Valley minerals. Just tons of information. It's actually, you know, nearly 150 years of Innovations in mining. John Searles mined the first borax from Searles Lake, Dry Lake in 1873. Okay, there's borax, V-bore, pyrobore, boric acid, soda ash, anhydrous sodium sulfate, bicarb, salt. Oh, here's a timeline, cool. 1850 in January, the Jayhawker, Briar, and Brennett Arcane groups passed through Searles Valley. Their escape from Death Valley, 1862. John Searles prospects, starts mining gold and silver in the Slate Range Mountains with 3 partners. Uses borax and soda easily. Gathered from the dry, barren surface of what is now Searles Lake to refine his ores. However, the value of the borax goes unrecognized. Anyway, this is just a whole timeline here. Yeah, so if you want to learn about the mining company, this is the place to do it right here. The railway was a big deal because it's just the volume of this stuff is huge, so there needs to be a way to get it out of here. Oh, and here's some wildflower information, which is cool. Here's Mr. Searles himself. All right, well, you history buffs probably enjoyed that. I don't know about the rest of you, but I think that's pretty cool. It is late December right now, so the weather's like really wonderful. If you come here in the summertime, it's an entirely different story. There's some OHV folks coming through to use the facilities or whatever. Some of these places are really bad, but they actually look like they're being lived in. Here's something to cheer you up. All in pretty good shape, and they've taken the time to decorate it. Very cool. This can't be all bad. He's got a hot tub, right?
In 3/4 of a mile, the destination is on your left, Trona High School.
Another thing that Trona is renowned for is its high school football team for a somewhat dubious reason, and that is that their football field, which is right behind me there, you can see the lights for the nighttime playing. The football field is entirely dirt. There's no grass whatsoever. It's just hard, dusty dirt. So these kids play on this dirt. They practice on it in the hot days. I just can't imagine it. And I can imagine, though, that when their opponents come and play them, they probably have a pretty big home field advantage. I imagine if you're used to playing on grass, that would be a little bit difficult to play on this stuff. Now, one of the reasons is that the water here in Trona is all piped in from Ridgecrest. So water is really precious here. So you really don't see any vegetation in people's yards. It's just not practical to use water for that. The water has to be used for drinking and cooking and cleansing. That's the reason. Now you might ask why they don't put some artificial turf down. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a budgetary thing, but you would think that the plant could kick in for artificial turf. But I also have heard that they take pride now in the fact that they play on the dirt, and they don't want to change that. But there's been news stories on them from all over the country about this football team and the way they play on the dirt. So I think they just want to keep it that way. Oh, and it also needs to be mentioned that the name of the team is the Trona Tornadoes. I can only imagine that some of their opponents would rather weather a tornado than play on this dirt field, but gotta give them credit. They're pretty tough. Okay, I'm on the north end of town, and you can see behind me there is the T on the side of the hillside for Trona, and then this kiosk here in this bare space here is actually a cemetery that's not occupied yet. And then behind me now, the other side of the street is the actual cemetery. And then behind that, but if you look at the train cars down there, you can see they kind of curve around. And train people call that a balloon. And so when the train tracks come into the Trona plant, the Searles Valley Mineral Plant, they take this big loop. It's a huge loop. And what that enables them to do is to avoid any switching of cars. You know, they don't have to unhook the cars and pull the locomotives around and do all that stuff. It just makes a big circle, and they come in and get loaded up and go right out. I'm currently walking around the cemetery in Trona, and I'm struck by a couple of things. One is there seems to be a mix of people who either died quite young, only made it to 20 or 30 or 40, mixed in along with a lot of people who seem to live quite long lives, and those seem to be the older generation. So I don't know if they've had some trouble with, you know, drug addiction or alcoholism or whatever, as they often do in places like this. You know, my fellow YouTuber, I'm a big fan of hers, named Wonder Hussey, she called this the Detroit of the desert, which is true in the sense that, you know, there's once big, the plant here employed a lot of people, and that kind of died down. But you know, it is a lot of abandoned houses, cheap real estate, and all that. But along with Detroit, you know, there are people from Detroit who are really proud of their city and trying to make it a lot better. And we definitely have that going on here in Trona. So anyway, thanks for coming along for the ride. And if you did enjoy the video, I would really appreciate a subscribe and a thumbs up, like, because there will be a lot more great videos I plan to produce, kind of adventure style like this. So, you know, learning about cool places and all that. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching.